Venezuela returns today to a radical social quarantine regime throughout its territory. Students return to primary and middle schools in Beijing, China, as part of slow reopening of schools and universities. Lebanese Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adib walks through Basque neighborhoods near Beirut's port. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Laura Palmeiro. Venezuela returns today to a radical social quarantine regime throughout its territory in an attempt to slow down the spread of the novel coronavirus, informed Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. President Maduro insisted on the importance of maintaining social distancing measures in order to cut transmission chains of the coronavirus. Maduro highlighted the validity of the 7+7 method, which combines a week of flexibilization to reactivate economic activity, followed by a similar period of limitation of mobility and closure of most businesses and entities, except the sectors linked to the food, healthcare, and industrial fields. Venezuela reported 922 new cases of COVID-19 the day before, bringing the number of infected people to over 45,000 cases. The COVID-19 has caused 381 fatalities in Venezuela. Brazilian Health Ministry reported 366 deaths from COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. According to the information, the death toll stands at 120,828. Only this weekend, 16,858 new cases were registered. There is a total of 3,862,311 COVID-19 cases in the South American country. Despite the restriction measures, hundreds of people visit the beaches of Rio de Janeiro and Santos, the cities most affected by the pandemic in Brazil. In Peru, the novel coronavirus causes a growing number of infections and deaths. The Ministry of Health reported over 7,000 infected people and 181 deaths as a consequence of this disease in the last 24 hours. Until this day, the Latin American country has reported more than 647,000 COVID-19 cases and over 28,000 deaths. In recent days, a government-sponsored campaign was rejected because it blamed the spiking numbers of the cases to social indiscipline, the main cause of contagions in the country. Territories say that argument tries to erase the responsibility of the government by blaming the people. Three people entered the isolation facility at Harrison Point, St. Lucie, after testing positive for COVID-19 yesterday, out of 277 tests conducted, and 4 people left after recovering from the viral illness. The new cases are a 33-year-old male visitor and a 42-year-old Barbadian man, who both came into Barbados aboard British Airways on August 25 and tested positive on their second test, and a 24-year-old Bahamian female student who arrived on Caribbean Airlines from the Bahamas via Jamaica. The current statistics reveal 173 confirmed cases, 21 people in isolation, and 145 people who have recovered. The British Foreign and Commonwealth Office, FCO, removed Jamaica from its list of Caribbean countries from which British citizens do not have to undergo a mandatory 14-day quarantine when they return home. The FCO has issued a general warning to its citizens against all non-essential travel, but it has created an exemption list of nations to which Britons continue to travel. Barbados, Cuba, St. Lucia, and Antigua and Barbuda remain at the list, which is frequently revised. Jamaica has recorded 1,879 COVID-19 cases and 12 deaths so far. In Jamaica, over 45,000 election day workers, police officers, and military personnel are expected to go to the polls today, 3 days before the rest of the population, in order to guarantee the polls on September 3rd. According to the Commission, members of the security forces will vote at the location closest to where they are based. The ballots will later be sorted and transferred to the respective returning officers to be counted on September 3rd. Inside the polling station, the presiding officer will issue the ballot to the elector along with a pencil and direct the person to the voting booth. Instead of the usual pencil attached to the voting booth and used by all electors, each elector will be given an individual pencil that is sanitized before and after the use. And let's take a couple minutes break now. We'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Argentina successfully launched an Earth observation satellite this Sunday from the U.S. Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. A used SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket carried the SAOCOM 1B satellite aloft, marking the company's 15th launch of 2020. The head of the Argentine mission of 13 specialists who arrived almost 2 months ago at Cape Canaveral to finalize the details of the launch said that it was not easy to rearm the entire team of Argentines working for the mission as a result of the coronavirus. A group of 50 Argentinian professionals are working on orbital positioning and deployment of radar antennas from 3 points in Argentina: Córdoba, Bariloche, and Buenos Aires. The SAOCOM mission takes a complex Earth observation technology which represents a significant improvement over conventional optical sensors, and it was especially designed to detect soil moisture and obtain information on the Earth's surface in any weather condition or any time of the day.
We are one of the 10 countries in the world capable of placing satellites like the one we just launched. This accomplishment fills us with pride. In the midst of a complex pandemic, with all the difficulties, we have not stopped this endeavor. It started back in 2007. In this context, let's celebrate. Let's be very happy.
The satellite built entirely in Argentina was praised by Fernandez that said SAOCOM 1B will provide key data for agricultural production and emergency management. The idea of building this satellite was conceived 18 years ago during the former President Nestor Kirchner's term, and the construction process took 8 years.
What I am proud of is that this is done by Argentine scientists. This is Argentina science. This is the capacity of our scientists. This science, this technology, has been developed by our own scientists. We see them there at the Cordobese headquarters of National Commission of Space Activities, and that we see them there in Bariloche at the headquarters of Limbapes, the enterprise which we all Argentinians are proud of, the effort of the government of Rio Negro and the national state.
Another weekend of violence and shootings in the United States. At least 50 people had been shot and 10 of them had been killed in Chicago as of Sunday evening. Among those wounded in shootings this weekend were 2 police officers, along a suspect whom a 3rd officer shot in Homan Square. However, media focused on the anti-racial protest. In Portland, Oregon, there were clashes between the police and Donald Trump supporters. Protests were taking place, as they have for more than 90 consecutive nights, against racial injustice and police brutality, a tension sparked by Jacob Blake's shooting in Wisconsin. According to local media, a Trump 2020 cruise rally in Portland made its way through downtown Portland area in spite of the police trying to keep it away from there. The police tweeted Saturday that there was violence between demonstrators and counter-demonstrators and reported that one man was killed. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is still planning to visit Kenosha, Wisconsin this week after Democratic Wisconsin government Tony Evers wrote him a letter urging that he considers as the city continues to grapple with racial unrest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. President Trump looks forward to visiting on Tuesday and helping this great city heal and rebuild, said White House Deputy Press Secretary Jude Deere, said in a statement Sunday night after the governor in a public letter to the president that his presence will only hinder our healing. I am concerned your presence will only delay our work to overcome division and move forward together. Donald Trump continues to politically benefit from the violence in the United States. He again sent the National Guard to Portland, Oregon to control the protests, he said. The National Guard is part of the United States Army Reserve, and when deployed in some states, it is seen as an unwanted intervention from Washington. In this case, Trump is using this as an electoral prop to say that he is capable of controlling the demonstrators, although he is widely seen as a divisive figure. Trump has not condemned the shooting of Jacob Blake and has never used the popular slogan of Black Lives Matter.
With Kenosha, it's been in very, very good shape from the moment they set foot in that area. The sheriff's been great, the police commissioner, the police chief has been great. We've been working with all of them, but the governor let us do what we had to do, and we cleaned it out. We'll see what happens. We have to keep it going, but it's we won't have any problem.
In Russia, the government is stepping up new measures to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus right after the decision of reopening schools. The authorities will take a number of measures that include a strict schedule of lessons and breaks, ventilation of classrooms, and social distancing. Even though children are not forced to wear masks, a daily disinfection process will be done. In Russia, in the last 24 hours, 4,933 new cases were detected, for a total of 995,319, while the number of deaths rose to over 17,000. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko on Monday discussed plans for a referendum on constitutional reforms, as discontent with his 26-year-old rule has fueled huge protest. The 66-year-old is facing his greatest challenge, yet following 3 weekends of giant protests in Minsk over disputed August 9 presidential poll.
A return, as some say, to the 1994 Constitution, you and I have not simply lived it, but we have absorbed it within us. We saw what was happening then. Going back is probably not a movement. It is a change, but it is not progress. I would like these changes to move our society forward. We will insist on such changes and purpose such changes to our people. I am ready to discuss a whole series of questions with you, even if it is only a brief first examination, because at the Constitutional Court you are working on the draft constitution. Then we will propose this draft to the public for discussion, so that they can express their opinion, what they like and what they don't like.
And let's take a final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Around 590,000 students returned to primary and middle schools in Beijing, China this Saturday as part of a slow reopening of schools and universities. Constant hand washing and temperature checks are some of the measures to prevent COVID-19 infections. Schools were occupied with touch-free and Washington equipment on each floor. COVID-19 prevention signs, including lines of the floor space 1 meter apart, are also part of the changes put in place to remind students to keep social distancing. Beijing sent off more than 1,000 inspectors to check anti-epidemic and security preparations, including facial recognition devices, social distancing, disinfectants, and other measures to help halt the spread of the COVID-19 in the city. Sweden attracted worldwide attention earlier this year when it famously stayed open throughout the first months of the coronavirus pandemic, and now it is holding out again, this time refusing to recommend the use of masks. While most of the world has come to terms with covering their noses and mouths in crowded places, people in Sweden are going without riding buses and metros, shopping for food, and going to school maskless, with only a few rare souls covering up. Public health officials here argue the masks are not effective enough at limiting the spread of the virus to warrant mass use, insisting it is more important to respect social distancing and hand-washing recommendations.
There is no new evidence coming out, which is a bit surprising. Seeing so many countries introducing it, you will see that some evaluation will be in place and maybe it will be coming, and then the situation will be more clear when and how face masks actually makes a difference, and they don't. So right now there is definitely no reason to introduce something like that. We keep following the evolution, both when it comes to the spread in Sweden and the evolution of the knowledge around what face masks actually do.
Lebanese Prime Minister-designate Mustafa Adib walks through blast-hit neighborhoods near Beirut's port shortly after being appointed premier. In a televised speech after his nomination, Lebanon's former ambassador to Germany vowed Monday to swiftly launch a reformist government and seek international financial assistance after the Beirut blast deepened the political and economic crisis. The politician also will have the backup of the biggest party in the country, which is headed by Prime Minister Saad Hariri. Supporters of former Ivory Coast President Laurent Bongo, who lives in Belgium after being tried by the International Criminal Court on Monday, filed his candidacy for October's presidential election. Bongo, who was freed conditionally after he was cleared in 2019 of crimes against humanity, had been barred by the country's electoral commission from running. The October 31st election in the world's top cocoa grower is said to be tense after years of political turbulence and civil war, and Bongo's return to national politics is highly sensitive. The country remains scared by the conflict that erupted after the 2010 vote, when Bongo refused to hand over power to the current president Alassane Ouattara. In that conflict, around 3,000 people lost their lives in several months of violence. This Monday, Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif described as enforcing the law of the jungle, the principle espoused by the United States. In a message on social media, Zarif pointed out that this has been a long basic element in U.S. foreign policy. It means the law of the jungle because it discards an international principle, the non-use of force, he said. When Donald Trump became president, that policy was even used against the American, although it was in practice in other countries. For several years, the White House threatened Iran with various variants, including war, and keeps them on the table because Tehran disagrees with Washington's on politics, economics, trade, and the military. Karachi residents began cleaning ruined homes and businesses this Monday after catastrophic flooding sent rivers of filthy water cascading through Pakistan's largest city, while deadly monsoon weather continued to lash communities across South Asia. Successive days of a storm have exposed the long-standing failures of Karachi's neglected and overwhelmed drainage system, and residents use a welcome break in the rain to vent their fury at what they see as gross mismanagement of municipal resources. Authorities did not immediately comment. During a single day last week, 18 Karachi residents died from flood-related incidents. The water was so deep in places that children were seen swimming in the streets. More than 100 Pakistanis died in August because of the monsoon, which has also destroyed more than 1,000 homes. And we have come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Laura Palmeiro. Thank you for watching.